Well, the next person, she better start coming up because I don't really have a big introduction. I scoured the internet for information on her, but I guess they keep the prosecutors' bios close to the vest. Kateri Gasper is a 1983 Antioch graduate. She is going to speak on balancing the values of public interest law, which drew her to Antioch in 1980, and becoming a career prosecutor concentrating on the sexual exploitation of children on the internet. Kateri, I'd like you to tell us what college you went to and what you studied. Just not a lot, or if there was a rest of your career that you'd like to mention. I give Judge Milliken's giving you a minute or two.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Actually, I went to Boston University as an undergrad, and in my career, I feel like I've come full circle because I majored in mathematics and computer science, which at the time I absolutely hated, and decided to go to law school. And I want to talk a little bit about what originally drew me to Antioch was the idea that it was a public interest law firm, really, that it taught you how to be a lawyer, not just go to school and sit in a classroom and get questions thrown at you. But I actually left this school feeling like I knew a little bit about what it was like to practice law and what it was going to be like. And and throughout my career, I've looked back on that, and not only on that issue, but also the issue of the types of people that Antioch represented, the disenfranchised, the poor, the children. Those were all very important to me. And when I left Antioch, the last thing I ever thought I was ever going to do was end up as a career prosecutor. I thought career legal aid maybe, but never as a career prosecutor. And my first job as an attorney was working in the Human Rights Commission in New York City, investigating employment discrimination. And after I went on to work for the New York City Housing Authority for a short time, doing landlord-tenant work, which was horrible. And then I went to the district attorney's office in Queens County, New York City, and I started there prosecuting hate crimes. And that was what they hired me to do, was to work in then it was called our Anti-Bias Bureau, but basically I was prosecuting hate crimes. Which to me, working in the DA's office, I was still following through on my commitment to Antioch and, and working on those types of cases. And then I went on to prosecute various gang cases over a substantial period of time. But to me, what I've done really for the last 11 and a half years has really instilled in me a lot of what I brought from Antioch, and I've been prosecuting cases involving the sexual exploitation of children over the internet. And that's what I mean where I've come full circle. When I started working in our computer crime unit, I started just doing basically a lot of economic type things, and I saw that there were issues on the internet involving child luring, and this is really before the complete explosion of the internet. But there were, what I had started dealing with were children who were being lured over the internet by people who wanted to meet them for sex. I eventually started working with a group of detectives who now go online in an undercover capacity. It's that whole To Catch a Predator type of thing. And more recently, in the past couple of years, because of the proliferation of the internet and what are known as peer-to-peer networks, is the sharing and trading of child pornography over the internet, which involves the images and videos of children being sexually abused. And I can't tell you how horrific those things are, to watch and to see, children, very, very young children being sexually abused. But I think emotionally, probably all of us would agree where defendants should be who, do that type of thing. But one of the things that I brought with me from Antioch is that, and I still believe in that, is that defendants, no matter what, they still have the same right as everybody else. And that they are guaranteed certain rights by our, in our criminal justice system. And there's many countries that don't have that type of rights. And I think that it's very important, and I feel that it's my absolute duty as a prosecutor to make sure that a defendant's rights are upheld. Whether it be in writing a search warrant, making sure that there's no assumptions or speculation, that it's based on evidence, to make sure that when somebody is arrested, that it is the right person arrested, that you know, in terms of any statements that are taken, that they're taken in a manner that follows, in my case, the New York State Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. And I know in New York we don't have any requirement where we have to videotape or audio tape statements, but I do work, yet, exactly, yet. But I do work, and I think that is something, it is important, because I work with a core group of detectives, and in my cases, we videotape and either videotape or audio tape all the statements. And I do this actually for a particular reason, because one, I can go into court and I can say, this is what, you know, the defendant said, and this is what the detective said, and there's a recording of it. And that's one of the reasons why we've done that over the several years. But I think that it's my absolute duty as a prosecutor to uphold the rights of the defendant. Because everybody, as everybody knows, that, you know, your actions have consequences. And if you choose to go online and download and trade child pornography, your actions are going to have consequences. But as a prosecutor, my job is not just to prosecute. My job is to seek justice. And it's not only justice for those children who I can tell you are completely scarred for life because of what they've been through. I mean, I know victims who were 9 years old and now are in their 20s, and they literally can't walk down the street because they're afraid that somebody's going to recognize them. So and every time that somebody, you know, trades these things, they're victimizing these children. And so it's my job to represent them, but it's also my job to also make sure that the rights of the defendants, who are also a lot of times citizens of the county I work in, their rights are upheld. Because ultimately, it's my job as a prosecutor to make sure that their actions, you know, have consequences. And I'm the one who has to look in the mirror, and I know I have one more minute, and I'm just on my last sentence. Every night I have to look at myself in the mirror, and I have to know that it's, you know, my ethical obligation and it's my integrity that is going to be called into question by what I do. And so, not only in representing these victims, not only in upholding the rights of the defendants, but it's also making sure that these, you know, these people, they have consequences for their actions in a way that meets the requirements that I'm required to meet by law, and that their rights are guaranteed too. Thank you.
Thank you, Kateri.